right, guys, welcome back to the ALGS channel. Hope you guys are all doing well and having a great day so far. Finally, the LCQ is finished for every single region across the board, and we're here to bring you the stats. We're here to bring you the updates, which teams qualified, which teams did not qualify, which teams were upsetted, which teams were underdogs and kind of went crazy, and which teams will probably, if at all, be making changes in the near future. Thankfully enough, we haven't actually seen any like really bad or upsetting news about someone retiring or roster changes quite yet, but I would presume that some of those probably will come out throughout the week and maybe even throughout the next months as Champs progresses as well. So if you guys want to stay up to date all things Apex Legends esports related, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into this. First thing I wanted to mention, one of the craziest stories of this entire LCQ was coming from this guy. You probably know him if you're in the ALGS scene as far as a competitor, but definitely not one of the biggest popular people in the world. This is Crow. So there was a team on this list called, and I'll go ahead and show you right here, Secret Formula, that placed at the end, SECF. Now, Crow was actually a substitute player for this roster, and what was so insane about watching all of this was the fact that he was not supposed to be playing. Lily basically said he wasn't playing good, so he decided to sub himself out and bench himself in the middle of the tournament. They put Crow in, they get second place on the last game, just enough to qualify him for the finals, and then they go crazy in the finals and get fifth place overall. An absolute amazing performance for them, and it was just such a cool underdog story to see those guys, because I don't think anybody really was respecting them as much as they probably should have. Now let's go ahead and talk about the overall standings, of course, as well. We want to go over the finals first off. So Dojo did qualify, that's Timmy, that's Enemy, and that is Designful, and they did qualify to go into this championship LAN event. Now that's pretty remarkable, and obviously the thing is that you had Designful leaving E8 does not qualify. So I know Designful feels good about that. Obviously Timmy being his first Apex LAN ever is going to be an amazing sight to see. I know the Dojo is going to have an insane amount of performance. And then you'll also see the second team here, DNO, that qualified. If you're not familiar with this, this is Dude's Night Out. This consists of Duplex, former Optic Gaming. Obviously, I think a lot of people really like Duplex. You've also got on the backside of this Lou, former Lanimals team, right? A lot of drama in between the Lanimals roster that you had with Lou and Albralelie. And then as their third as well, you have Sinox. So Sinox, Lou, and Duplex do qualify for champs. I feel like this is a little bit of an underrated roster. No one really had them on the radar to actually qualify. I think we all knew they were going to do good, but I think people had Furia a little bit ahead of them, maybe even Team Stability. But you'll see some of these rosters that did not play well. Unfortunately, Team Stability with a 9th place, obviously not a bad performance, but a little bit underwhelming considering you know who they are and who where they're used to placing. Then also you've got E8, a really underwhelming performance, 16th place overall. Obviously, I do not intend for this roster or expect this roster to stick together after all of this. One of the most unfortunate ones was, of course, Meat Lovers, and I feel like Meat Lovers and Stability have a very similar excuse. Kind of screwed throughout the entire year with roster changes. Tech, you know, every single one of his teammates gets poached at some point in time, so it obviously sucks to see. Meat Lovers did make to the finals, however, they did not qualify to championship. However, they did qualify for Year 4 Pro League, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But third place, I think one of the most heartbreaking ones was Team Furia, Albralelie squad. These guys were playing so consistently well, in my opinion. I think they were like one, you know, at one point all three of these guys were on match point. Furia was looking good. They made a bad play in the latter half of the game, and you know, I just knew that them playing under that bridge was going to cost them. And of course, you just really had to hope and pray that Dojo wasn't going to win the game, and sadly enough, Dojo did exactly that. They won the game. Furia, because they died so early on, didn't get any kill points for him. I think Furia, if I'm not mistaken, was ahead of DNO at some point in going into this game. I could be wrong, but then after that, basically DNO just comes back with a better round 6. You can see they even placed second here, so it was actually bound to be the final fight. Someone was going to win regardless. So of course Furia just did not do enough to make it to LAN, and this is where you see some of the emotional responses as well. Albralelie comes out and says basically this: I failed. I did not play the way I needed to. I gave a structure, macro, and tried the best way to give us into the spots to win, but I also became a liability. I see the game better than I ever have right now. I just need more time to figure out how to do it without sacrificing gameplay. To those who continue to support me, I'm sorry that I've let you down, but this isn't going to stop me. I know we are going to be, obviously doing something great for next Pro League split, and I also just want to keep grinding and stay on the right track to become the best with these guys. Thank you all for the love. It seriously means the world to me and makes me want to be the best version of myself every day. I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Good night. I'm honestly glad to see this response for coming from Mac. I was a little bit worried that he might get a little bit in his head again. He might think about retiring. He might think about moving on. But I personally think Furia seems like a great spot for him. Now, we did see Albralelie come out of the FaZe roster a couple of months ago and specifically say he never, ever wants to IGL again. A lot of people have been calling Panders the IGL for this roster, but if you watch their comms, you would very clearly see Panders was communicating absolutely none at all. It was all Albralelie calling the shots. I think at one point, Panders like very clearly made it known that Albralelie, you will be the IGL here. And honestly, I felt like Mac did a pretty good job overall. And like he said, it really seems like Mac is like seeing the game better than he ever has. He really, I feel like they played pretty consistent. There was a couple times, of course, where, some mistakes were made. But overall, I feel like this Furia roster is going to be very good next, year for the Pro League split. And I can't wait to see them back in business. It just kind of sucks that we're going to have to wait so long in order for all of this stuff to happen. There's a massive, off break right now. Apex really has to change this format or something because, it's just, 2 months off, we have a split. 2 months off, we have an champs. 2 months off, 3 months off, 4 months off until we finally get something. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of downtime in between. Of course, Naughty goes on as well with EA. Like I said, I do not expect for this roster to stick it together. I just feel like there's just so much going wrong with this roster. Naughty saying, going dark for a little bit, failed repeatedly throughout this year, but I always look forward. Love each and every one of you. I honestly thought Naughty, obviously cracked player. I just feel like this E8 roster dynamic just wasn't it. There was a lot of confusion when you watch their comms. There's a lot of maybe not trusting or maybe doubting each other, and I just feel like the vibe just wasn't there, and it just didn't seem to click like you would have thought it was going to click. So I did feel like Furia clicked really, really well, and sadly none of those rosters were able to make it. Madness also goes on saying the same thing about Meat Lovers and himself, that they just pretty much got screwed over by roster changes throughout the entire year. The lack of chemistry obviously screwed him. I think you could see the lack of chemistry there. Keon is obviously a very great player, but I just noticed a lot of times, overextensions and, not listening to maybe an IGL or some little small things that, basically costed them a little bit. And by the way, I just noticed that Twitter has this X up here. What an ugly, this looks horrible. Why in the world did they do that? That looks so bad. Anyhow, it is nice to see that a fan favorite like Timmy and the Dojo did very well. Now, I got to say, I was actually not expecting this roster to do this good, but they came out absolutely frying. They continuously fried, and I just really was shocked at how good and consistently they played together. These guys are honestly, I said to myself, if they do this good in the finals, I feel like they can do probably this good at the championship as well. I don't think they're going to come in and get 37th place, 40th place, whatever, even though there were some people saying that, I think DNO maybe not going to do so well at the champs, but I don't know. I feel like the Dojo probably will do pretty good. Another roster we were looking out for was the Tripods, of course. Obviously, they didn't even make it to the finals. They actually got eliminated in loser bracket round 2. That wraps up our ALGS season. So says Nick Merch. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Regardless, love my dogs, love the M fam, and appreciate the unwavering support. Back to the drawing board. It kind of seems like Nick still plans to keep playing Apex competitively. I actually wonder if Jet indeed, continue to plan to stay with this roster, but I don't know. I do like to see that Nick Merckx doesn't seem to be going anywhere in any form or fashion. It seems like he still wants to play Apex. Seems like he still wants to play competitive, and that's a pretty good sight to see. I feel like all of these big streamers obviously are bringing a lot more attention to the game and the esports scene and the potential that it has. Overall, I'm happy with the way that Apex esports is getting some love. Obviously, I just hope they can fix some things throughout the way, but it is good to see that so far the champs is shaping up to be absolutely insane. Now, obviously, that was just North America. Now let's talk about some of these other regions as well. And basically, if we have to worry about anything, there was actually some crazy stuff going on in the South America scene. So South America had a finals where you had a really large score gap in between the top players, and you had a lot of people with a lot of points. And I think it went to all the way to game 9 or something. And this is where the craziness came in. SAF was actually not doing that good overall in the point system. They basically sneaked their way into match point. Come game 9, they're able to win. They're able to secure it. but they basically finish in first place, even though they're technically like 5th place, I think, overall in the point system. So Glitch Energy was actually the 2nd most overall points. Kick was the 1st most overall points, and because it goes off base who wins match point finals and then who has the most amount of points after that, Glitch Energy actually barely missed the cutoff and lose. Even with 92 points to their name, they still don't make it, sadly, and they get 3rd place. So your South American finalists through the LCQ will be Kick and will be SAF. I don't think anybody's really shocked by too much by Kick, but I think Glitch Energy, I think a lot of people had those guys making it, sadly not able to pull it through. Also, we got APAC North. There's no surprise in the world here. You've got Crazy Raccoons, and then you've also got Northeption. Literally, I don't think there was any other team that I expected to make it other than Crazy Raccoons and Northeption. So it's good to see that those goats over there from the APAC North scene still being consistent and still making their way through it as well. Then also the APAC South scene, a lot of guys you really don't know. Like, I feel like these organizations aren't as well known, besides maybe you know, MDY White. I feel like obviously they kind of make themselves known at LAN quite a bit. So you've got APAC South coming through, and then finally you've got EMEA, which, by the way, when I started this channel, everybody was like, correct, yo, it's EMEA, it's EMEA, it's EMEA. Literally, Nice Week says EMEA. Literally, AJ Hawk says EMEA. Literally, it is EMEA because it is an acronym. You don't sound out acronyms like that. And I just feel like, you know, we need to say EMEA because that is what it is. Just a little side rant. Anyways, Go Next make it. LCDF. I watched this one live. It was absolutely insane. I thought that Entropic was actually going to make it. They were like in first. They were doing well, and everything seemed so good. And sadly, they just could not clutch up. They couldn't pull it through. Go Next has a guy on their team, by the way, Slab, that apparently had like retired for a little bit, like, I'm gonna quit, and then like 10 minutes later he deletes the tweet. They decide to go back, and boom, they qualify for champs. Absolutely insane stuff to see from them. Aurora, I think people were expecting a little bit more out of, and Vexed as well. The crazy story about Vexed and Aurora is that these guys actually were in first place, and Vexed was like at 30 points after game 1 or 2 or something, and like it was just looking like Vexed was gonna win it pretty quickly. And then shortly after that, just the dynamic of this roster fell apart. G-Dolphin was constantly, you know, kind of re-asking questions to the IGL, Matafi, and was just like, Matafi, or what, are you sure? Are you sure we don't do this? I don't think we should do this. Like, and of course, Matafi's getting in his head. He doesn't feel like maybe he's making the right calls. He's starting to doubt himself. And when you do that stuff mid-game, it just makes everything worse. And of course, Vex started to fall apart shortly after their early success. And it sucks to see, though, those guys were not able to make it through as well. Anyhow, that wraps it up. Our LCQ is finally done, and we can finally move on to champs coming September 6th through September the 10th. Obviously, the new season is going to be starting August, so you're going to have a month to adapt to the new meta, the new updates, the new changes, and we'll see which rosters obviously can make it through. We'll obviously be covering all of this stuff right here on the ALGS News channel, so if you guys want to stay up to date, all things Apex Legends esports related, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, we'll see you later, Gators. Oops.